Hello, it's me again. Right, I'm ready for story number 2. Are you ready? Okay, get comfy. Make sure you got your listening ears on. Are you ready? Okay. It's called Yucky Worms and it's by Vivian French. So we're going to learn lots about worms in our story today. And then at the end, I'm going to ask you lots and lots of questions about worms. So make sure you're listening. I'm going to test you. One day, when I was in Gran's garden, Gran dug up a slimy, slithery, wiggly worm. Yuck, I said. Throw it away. Throw it away? Gran looked horrified. Would you throw away one of your friends? You can't be friends with a worm, I said. You can't even tell which end is which. Yes, you can. Watch. Gran put the worm down. It gave a kind of squirmy wriggle and disappeared really fast, pointy end first. As the rounded end vanished, Gran said, Look, there goes its tail. I bent down to look and I could see it had left a little tunnel. Where's it gone? I asked. Home, Gran said. It's an earthworm. It lives in the earth. In most gardens, there will be about 20 worms in every square metre of earth. Oh, look, we've got a diagram of a worm there. Can you see? Let's go through some of the information. Let's see what we can find out about a worm. So the worms have got a mouth. It's got a brain. We've got brains, haven't we? It tells us what to do. A worm has got 5 pairs of hearts. 5 pairs. Pairs. That must mean it's got 10 hearts. It's got an esophagus where the food goes down. It's got a crop where the worm stores his food. It's got a ring around his tummy, but that's only found on adult worms. It's got skin all over its body, which is covered in mucus, which is easier for wriggling round on the ground. It's got the intestines, where the goodness from the food is absorbed into the bloodstream. That's what our bodies do as well. We've got intestines as well that takes all of the goodness from our food. And this is my bottom, where the poo comes out. Cheeky worm. Does it eat the earth too? I wanted to know. It eats tiny, tiny stones and bits of grit, Gran told me. But worms eat other things as well, like rotting leaves and flowers and fruit and dead insects. They especially like eating at night when it's cooler. Worms come above the ground to find things to eat too. They pull their food back down as they wriggle into the earth again. The stones and the grit in their tummies help to grind everything up in the worm's stomach, and then the worm poos it back out. There's a lot of poo in this story. Gran pointed at the flower bed. Look, can you see it? I bent down and I saw a weird, long, curly worm made of earth. That's worm poo, Gran said. It's called a cast. You know when you recycle things? Well, worms do it too. There's still a lot of goodness left in the things a worm eats. And when the goodness comes out again as poo, it helps plants to grow big and strong. And as the worms move about under and over the earth, the poo gets spread around the garden. Never knew poo could be so exciting. That's why worms are my friends. Gran gave me a thumbs up. It's not just their poo that's good for the plants. The tunnels they dig loosen the soil, so roots can stretch out and air and rainwater can get in. You see all the tunnels that the worms have made in the ground. What does it say? Let's see if it can give us some information. Worms' poo again, is so fine and crumbly it never blocks their tunnels. Means it's very, very small and it breaks up really easily. In a square metre of earth, there will be about 4 metres of earthworm tunnels. That's a lot of tunnels. Some people call worms underground farmers. Worms can wriggle backwards and forwards. That's clever. Don't know if I'm good at being a worm. I bet you're better than me. But it's also very dangerous being a worm, Gran said. I stared at her. Dangerous? She smiled at me. Lots and lots of animals think worms make the best sort of dinner. Look who's on the mole's shopping list. Worm, 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 worm. Birds love them, and so do moles, badgers, frogs, hedgehogs, and foxes. Even some slugs eat worms, and human beings slice them with spades and spike them with their forks. It's a tough life. Cutting them in half doesn't hurt them, Gran, I said. They just turn into 2 worms and keep on growing. Gran shook her head. Poor worms. Lots of people think that, but it's not true. She put her fork down. Time for a snack. A worm's tail can regrow if it's cut off, but if you cut a worm in half, it will kill the worm. Poor worms, we've got to be very careful if we're looking for worms outside, making sure that we're very gentle, because they're very delicate, aren't they? We don't want to hurt them. Gran had tea and I had some orange juice. Can I dig a worm up? I asked. If it rains, Gran said, the worms will come out on their own. Worms breathe through their skin. They don't mind the earth around them being wet, but if their tunnels are flooded, they come up to the surface to breathe. I took a biscuit. What if it doesn't rain? Gran winked at me. I can't wink very well. Can you wink? We'll use the watering can and pretend. I finished my biscuit and as fast as I could. Can we trick the worms now? Gran went to fill the watering can and I watered the earth. Then I stood back. I didn't want worms chewing at my shoes. They only put their heads out, Gran promised, but it'll be a while before they do. Oh, it's got some information here about what worms do when they're in the ground. Shall we have a look? When it's very hot and the soil gets too dry to slither through, a worm will wriggle down to where the earth is still damp, curl up and wait for rain. And when it's very, very cold, it will go even deeper into the ground, below frost level, where they can all curl up and keep each other warm. Oh, that's very nice. I like cuddles when it's cold. It gets me warm. Gran was right. I had time to eat 2 more biscuits before she said, Look! Wow, I said. I could just see the tip of the worm above the earth. Now, watch this. Gran stamped and the worm disappeared. Did you see it? I asked. Gran shook her head. Worms don't have eyes. They feel vibrations, like zzz, vibrations through. And a thump like that might mean a hungry bird landing. Danger. Gran dug her fork into the ground. Not a kitchen fork, not a fork that we eat with. A garden fork like this. Look, you dig it into the soil and you can dig up all your soil and do your gardening with it. Gran dug her fork into the ground. Up came lots of earth and wriggly worms. She picked up one and washed it in the watering can. Mustn't drop it, she said. They can't swim. A worm has rigid muscles all the way along its body to help it move. Gran put the clean worm on some paper and held it near my ear. I could hear a rustling noise. What's that? They're covered in little bristles, Gran said. The bristles and their muscles help them move. Very clever. Our muscles help us move as well, don't they? I've got muscles too. I bent down. I bent my arms so Gran could see. Have you got your muscles? Show me your muscles. I've got so many muscles, she said. Maybe you'd like to help me plant my sunflower seedlings. Okay, I nodded, and then I thought of something. When I go to school on Monday, I'm going to say I've got lots of new friends. Good idea, Gran said. Actually, I said, I might not actually say they're worms. The end. Did you like that story? So, just like our friend here, in your packs that you've been given, you've got your own sunflower seedlings. So maybe you could have a go at planting them and you can see how tall they grow. Remember, your sunflower needs water, your sunflower needs soil and sunlight to grow. Oh, this is interesting. It's telling us how to be a wormologist. That's somebody that finds out lots and lots and lots of information about worms. Do you want to become a wormologist? Okay. So, you've got to look out for, I'm going to read it, you're listening. Worm casts in your garden or in the park. So remember, what's a worm cast? Remember what that is. Leaves sticking up out of the earth and worms on the surface after rain. You can experiment, we've done some science experiments, haven't we? By watering a dry patch of grass or earth and watching to see if the worms come up. Tapping on the ground to see if you can make a worm believe it's raining. Carefully digging up a fork full of earth and counting how many worms you find. When you've got a worm in your hand, remember to be very respectful. A worm is a living creature. It's one of God's creatures, so we've got to look after him, okay? You've got to be very gentle and very, very delicate so we don't hurt him. Check how it feels. Is it smooth? Is it slimy? Can you feel the bristles? Watch how it moves. Is it a youngster or an adult? Remember, the adults have, what was it? That yellow ring around their body, that yellow muscle around their body. Put the worm back on to newly dug earth and watch how it wriggles away. Always wash your hands after touching worms. Wow, that was such an exciting story. Right, I've got some questions. Are you ready? Are you steady? Let's see if you can get more right or if your mum and dad can get more right. See who's going to be the winner. Question 1. Where do worms live? That's right, well done. They live in the earth or the mud or the soil. How many pairs of hearts does a worm have? Well done, they've got 5 pairs of hearts. What does a worm eat? And when does a worm eat? So I've got a long list here. Let's see if you've been able to remember some of these. So stones, grit, rotting leaves, flowers, fruit, dead insects. So I've got about 6. Did you remember all 6? And if we remember rightly, a worm eats at night because it's cooler. You might like this question. Give me another name for worm poo. What is it called? Give me the k sound. Cast. Cast. Well done. Which animals like to eat the worms? Moles, badgers, frogs, hedgehogs and foxes. What happens when it rains? What do the worms do when it rains? Yeah, when it rains, well done, the worms come up to the ground, don't they? Because so they can breathe, because their tunnels get all flooded. How do worms move? Well done, they've got tiny bristles all over their body and they use their muscles to drag them along the ground, and they can move forwards and they can move backwards. And why does Gran like the worms so much? Because they help to keep her garden nice and healthy. She likes the fact that the worm's poo gives lots of nutrients to all of her soil, so her plants can grow really, really nice and tall. And the tunnels that they dig help the roots of her plants to set and to hold. Yeah, well done. Who got more? Was it you? Well done. Give yourselves a clap. Right, I hope you like that story. I have got a few more. I'm not going to read them now. We'll come back another day to read another story. Okay, hope you're being good. Be safe. Bye. See you soon. Miss you.